Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Tuesday, December 28th. This is your daily Buckeye Fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rose Bowl game against Utah in 4 days. The game against Michigan in 334 days. I am out in California right now. So is Kevin Noon. Bright and sunny, beautiful Southern California. Is it like 50 degrees and raining? Listen, we don't have time for that, Kevin Noon. We have to talk about football. We have to talk specifically about some players who are not going to be playing in that Rose Bowl game against Utah in a few days. Ryan Day, during the Buckeyes' appearance at Disneyland on Monday, announced there are 4 Buckeyes who are going to be opting out. None of these names were a huge surprise. One of them was someone who we had heard was maybe going to play, but apparently changed his mind. Let's start at the top of the list with, I think, the guy that everyone assumed was not going to play, wide receiver Garrett Wilson. You know, to you, I mean, I assume this makes sense for Garrett Wilson. Like, you understand why Garrett Wilson's opting out. Who fills in for Garrett Wilson during the Rose Bowl for Ohio State?
Yeah, I guess, it really kind of just depends on what they're going to do. I mean, they're not going to move Jackson Smith and Jigba outside. They're going to keep them in. So it's a matter of whether or not it's Marvin Harrison, if it's Julian Fleming. I mean, what are you going to do there? I mean, they're going to have to find a way to get a Emeka Egbuka out there as well. I mean, you have this next cut of receivers, these 3 guys, and that's not a slight on Jaden Ballard or anybody, but this next 3 guys that seem to be game ready, who just haven't had their opportunity. Well, now you're going to have your opportunity with no Garrett Wilson, and we'll get to something else here in a second. There's going to be ample opportunity for these guys to get those reps because Ohio State's going to need it if this offense is going to be able to move the ball, run, pass.
And, if you look at the depth chart, Julian Fleming is the guy behind Garrett Wilson. So, okay, so let's pencil Julian Fleming in there. But on the other side of the ball, on the other side of the field, Garrett Wilson's the X receiver. At the Z receiver, Chris Olave also opting out. That one was a little bit more of a surprise to me, not because he doesn't fit the profile of the kind of guy who would opt out. He does. He's very likely a first-round pick in the upcoming draft, has done pretty much everything he needs to do, but you saw him practicing. He was in practice photos at Ohio State. You heard that he was practicing. Ohio State tweeted out a video on Monday of Garrett Wilson, and it was, something about, California, here we come, or, back home, or something like that. And Garrett Wilson in front of a palm tree in his number 2 jersey. And then a couple hours later, Ryan Day says, no, in fact, he's not playing. Like, what? What?
It was fake like the moon landing.
Kevin Noon's reviews, these statements do not reflect the... Kidding. Okay,
no, but yeah, I mean, we sat there and, we certainly heard Olave's name mentioned on both sides of the tally. Oh, he's going to play. Oh, he's not going to play. Around the time we boarded a plane on Monday, leaving Columbus, I was under the impression he was not going to play. We are somewhere between Vegas and Los Angeles on Monday, and the university puts out the photo of Olave at practice that you mentioned. And then, we get the Garrett Wilson news, and then shortly thereafter, I mean, even really kind of before it broke, we kind of got word from our people that we talked to that he was not going to go, and certainly that opens up more opportunity. But, Ryan Day certainly, and C.J. Stroud certainly would have loved to have had number 2 and number 5 out there.
Yeah, and Chris Olave just 64 yards short of 1,000. As a Southern California kid, you wondered maybe, and he obviously came back a year, for an extra year beyond what I think a lot of people were assuming he would be back for. That was a big surprise when he came back after last season. So it was not a shock that he's not playing, but it was just sort of a very strange way to find out. And without him there, I mean, if we're penciling in Julian Fleming on the other side of the, to replace Garrett Wilson, and you're assuming that Jackson Smith and Jigba stays at H in that slot spot, then, in terms of the Z, without Olave, it's either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Emeka Egbuka, or potentially some combination of both, or, between the 3 of them, they're going to fill those 2 spots. And as much as it would be wonderful to see Chris Olave again, and Chris Olave is going to go down as one of the most beloved Buckeyes in history, it feels like, in terms of the fan base, this is also kind of exciting where now you've got, the 2021 season is already kind of in a lot of ways over for Ohio State. Didn't meet Michigan, didn't win the Big Ten, can't win the national championship. This is now almost a little bit of an extra nudge towards this isn't the last game of 2021. This is almost kind of the first game of 2022.
Exactly. And the thing is, Ohio State only played 3 receivers most of the way through the season in meaningful minutes because of the 3 receivers that they had. You know, a lot of other places would probably rotate a little bit more. Ohio State having those 3 guys, I mean, it wasn't until later in games that you saw some of these other guys. Now they get a little bit of a leg up going against a very talented defense with Utah. You know, maybe not exactly the type of defense in the way that they do certain things that they might see in some of their non-conference play. And obviously, they open up against Notre Dame, so this is going to be a good warm-up, even though we're talking months and months and months between the 2 games to get ready for that, to get these guys some real-world experience playing in the first quarter, playing these meaningful minutes, having C.J. Stroud throwing the ball to him instead of a backup quarterback at this point, running the main offense, not just, okay, let's just not get anybody hurt, let's just not embarrass anybody, let's just get out of here.
And, you know, in the age of the transfer portal, it's probably not a bad thing to let your young guys get on the field and, okay, look, when we say you're a part of our future, we mean it. You are a big part of our future. And, you know, you also, in terms of the Ohio State fan base, there's not a ton that people are super excited about right now. This is not the most excited the Ohio State fan base has ever been this time of year. If you have C.J. Stroud throwing to Emeka Egbuka and Julian Fleming and Marvin Harrison, and you have Travion Henderson running for a lot of yards, that gives people a lot of stuff to be excited about, because then you can look and go, hey, those guys are all, you know, freshmen or redshirt freshmen, or, you know, about to have their second full year within the program. There's a lot to look forward to there, and that, you know, that kind of, you know, we've talked a little bit about this game being a narrative game for Ohio State in terms of, boy, if they come out and just lay an egg, the narrative around this team is going to be one thing. If they come out and win, and you're doing it with younger players, like, that completely reshapes the narrative going into the offseason.
Absolutely. I mean, it does give you such a window into what's going on. I mean, people will sit there and they say this game is a referendum on Ryan Day based on, you know, is Ohio State going to be able to bounce back after being called soft and the Michigan loss and having everything kind of fall off the table and losing the first conference game of his tenure at Ohio State, and worse yet, allowing that team up north to be able to go to the playoffs. So I understand the people that are calling it that referendum, but I think that when we look big picture, this is going to be much more of an important game for kind of setting the tone for what 22 can be like. And obviously, this game here on January 1st, 2022, so, you know, it is part of 2022, barely, just barely, is going to be with the old roster of coaches. I mean, and we, you know, whether or not it's, you know, Jim Knowles is the only new name in there or there are other new names, what we see is not necessarily going to be 100% ported over to, okay, well, this is what we're going to see in September. There's going to be time for position battles and so on and so forth, and new systems. And while Jim Knowles certainly is aware of what's going on with Ohio State, and there have been conversations, you know, make no mistake, you know, he's not been able to dive in, you know, with both feet and be able to jump into this. He's not calling shots. He doesn't start until January 2nd.
Right, and I think there's been a little bit of a discrepancy there between what Ryan Day sort of implied Jim Knowles was going to be doing, which is like, oh, he might just pop into the building for a day or two and just sort of, you know, find out where the men's room is, and, oh, look, here's our practice field. He might be a little more involved in that, but he's also not going to be sitting up in the booth calling the defense for the Rose Bowl. So, you know, where in that spectrum does he fall? That's going to be kind of interesting to see. Do we see a whole different, you know, do we see some new tweaks to this Ohio State defense? I am very interested to talk to Ross Fulton after the Rose Bowl to see what he thinks about, you know, how much different did we really see in this Rose Bowl, and what does that maybe tell us, just sort of in terms of a hint of what what may be to come. We've talked a lot about Jack Sawyer in that Leo role, that sort of stand-up edge rusher role. Do we see that in the Rose Bowl? Because I feel like we might. That you might start seeing little stuff like that that's like, oh, that's a little different. And, I mean, this is going to be not at all a comparison that Ohio State fans are excited to hear about at all. But, you know, when Lloyd Carr hung it up and Rich Rod took over for him, and Rich Rod was sort of like a little bit involved in that first bowl practice, and it was like, oh, look, Michigan's running some interesting stuff, like it's a little different. That didn't end great for Michigan, but, you know, this in terms of Ohio State might be a little bit like that, where it's just like, here's a little peek at what some new stuff you might get to see in the future. Another example of something you might get to see in the future that you're going to get a little peek of, Haskell Garrett not playing in the Rose Bowl. He is the third guy who's opted out. So you're going to probably see Teron Vincent, maybe Tyleik Williams. I mean, we'll see what they do in terms of that 3-tech spot. But that's a spot where Teron Vincent is someone who it's just been like forever and a day. It has felt like you're waiting for Teron Vincent to live up to the potential, to the hype. He's been injured. He hasn't been 100%. He hasn't quite ever gotten it going. This is an opportunity for him, and this is maybe an opportunity for some other guys in there to potentially get a chance to really make a little bit of a statement coming out of this year and heading into next year.
Well, this is going to be a tough guy game. You're going to have to be a tough guy being able to stop Tavion Thomas. You're going to have to be a tough guy to stop TJ Pletcher. You're going to have to be a disciplined guy to be aware of what Cameron Rising's out there doing. I wrote a piece earlier, a couple weeks ago, that Cameron Rising is not necessarily the biggest runner in the world, but he is an efficient runner and an effective runner when he needs to run. So Ohio State's going to have to go out there, play well, play smart, get guys down to the ground. That getting guys down to the ground, they were not able to do that against Hassan Haskins. Just plain and simple, just going to call it what it is. It just didn't happen. So this is going to be that opportunity to be able to deliver. Certainly the players did not like hearing the quotes about being called soft or whatever, what have you. Do something about it. Do something about it, and here is your opportunity. So whether it be Teron Vincent as an old hat, or whether it be Tyleik Williams as a young cat, to be able to get out there and do some things, it's going to be a big opportunity. Obviously, you'd love to have Haskell Garrett out there as well, somebody who's also from west of the Rockies, but things happen, and next man up.
Yeah, and now you've got Garrett out. You've got Garrett Wilson. You've got Haskell Garrett. You've got Chris Olave out. And you also have Nick Petit-Frere out. He's the fourth of the 4 guys who opted out. And, he's not going to be replaced by a young guy. That's going to be Thayer Munford, who kicks out from left guard to left tackle almost certainly. We'll find out for sure when we get to watch practice a little later on in the week. But that certainly seems like what's going to happen. So he's not a new starter. You've seen him play left tackle a bunch. But you have not seen Matt Jones start a lot at left guard. So now this is an opportunity for Matt Jones to see what Matt Jones can do. Because you've seen Matt Jones, on and off, and he's played situationally, and he might have had a start or two this year as, they've had guys banged up at various times. But, it seems like they are able to run the ball. The toughness you get, I think there have been some questions about the 4-tackle line, and that may be an experiment that didn't work out as well as they wanted to. Matt Jones is not a tackle. Matt Jones is a guard who is going to mash your face. And that's going to be kind of interesting to watch Matt Jones there. This is also kind of a cool story for Thayer Munford, because the last time we were out here, we went to practice, and then Thayer Munford sitting in a golf cart, and I was like, oh, well, I guess the rumors about Thayer Munford being a little banged up might be true. And then Thayer Munford didn't play, and Josh Alabi, who was a fifth-year senior that year, got the chance to play and got to start in the Rose Bowl, which was a very cool thing for Josh Alabi. Now Thayer Munford, on the other end of his career, instead of being the young guy, now he's the old guy. Now he's going to get a chance to start at left tackle in the Rose Bowl, which is something he didn't get to do 3 years ago.
A lot of people say that this line performed better with Matt Jones out there, and they had 6 guys trying to play in 5 spots, and whether or not you bought into the 4-tackle configuration or whatever, now you have Matt Jones in much more of a true position for him. And this puts Donovan Jackson in that alert position because he's the next guard up at that point. And we certainly have seen him kind of thrown in at a couple points. We've seen him don, 41 in terms of on the offense. This is a big opportunity for him because I'm telling you, Donovan Jackson's going to be a guard of the future. Former 5-star out of Houston, Texas, I believe, out of Eisenhower, I think. I'm not even positive on that, but he is a tremendous player. But, I'm so happy for Matt Jones to be able to get this opportunity here. I think that having Thayer Munford at tackle versus guard, I think that just suits them a lot better. One thing that they're going to have to be aware of, they go to Michigan, it's cold, it's going to be coolish by California standards here. It was loud. It's going to be loud here because Utah fans have kind of snapped up the tickets. Ohio State fans always travel well, but they're going to get kind of dominated here in terms of the numbers. The line just has to come out and play discipline, but this has got to be like riding a bike for Thayer Munford to be able to slide out to tackle.
Yeah, and the crowd mixture is going to be interesting because every year when we go to these bowl games, it's always Ohio State has a huge crowd advantage. This year, that's not the case. This is arguably the biggest game in the history of the Utah football program. I would not be surprised if there are 60,000 Utah fans at that Rose Bowl. Like it is going to be a very, very pro-Utah crowd, which that's good. Let's see the Ohio State team respond to the adversity of getting called soft. Let's see the Ohio State team play in a little bit of a, this is potentially a little bit of a true road environment. I mean, that's going to be real interesting to see in a way that you generally don't see with Ohio State. Just to give you guys a little bit of a sense to what to expect this week, and this schedule is all subject to change. The Lowry's Beef Bowl, we were supposed to do that on Tuesday. That has now been canceled as a result of the COVID situation. The players are getting Lowry's beef to go. We will not be there covering them eating to go containers of Lowry's prime rib. We'll figure something else out. Everything is a little bit fluid right now, but as of Monday evening, here's the plan for tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be streaming interviews with some Ohio State defensive players and potentially a coach or two. That'll be 11 a.m. Eastern. At noon Eastern, some Utah players and coaches on the offensive side of the ball. We'll be streaming that. That's all at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. And then at 3 p.m. Eastern, we are allegedly getting to go watch some open practice time for the Buckeyes and the Utes. We should have a practice window for one or both. All of this stuff is a little bit subject to change right now.
And that won't be streamed?
Yes, that will not be streamed, but we will have photos if we're allowed to get in there. If they don't change, if that doesn't change, we'll have photos and videos and a full practice report at BuckeyeScoop.com. That's the plan for now. As this stuff sort of continues to change, we're sort of rolling with the punches and we're figuring stuff out. Don't worry, we'll have lots of stuff to talk about. We'll have lots of stuff to do. There's a boatload of stuff to talk about with this game. There are a million interesting story angles, and we are looking forward to covering all of them for you at BuckeyeScoop.com. You should also make sure you check out all of our great podcasts. Kevin, I'm sure, will be dropping a Big Me Kickoff podcast out here. Tony Gerdeman and I will be doing a bunch of Buckeye Weekly shows out here. We'll, of course, have the morning scoops every day for you out here, and much, much more. I'm going to guess you're going to probably see another Around the Oval from Alex Gleitman this week. Lots of great stuff. So just when you best way to find all of those shows, just search Buckeye Scoop on your podcast platform of choice. Wherever you're listening to this, just search Buckeye Scoop. Subscribe to all those shows. They are all fantastic. A very enthusiastic 2-thumbs-up review for me. And if you like them as well, you can give us a very enthusiastic 5-star review. That would be fantastic for us. It helps other folks find those shows because of the way the magical algorithms work. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the best way to make sure you don't miss any of those live interview sessions, any of those live podcasts, any of those shows we're doing, just hit that bell on YouTube, and that'll get you notified every time we post a new live stream, every time we post a new show. You just get a little pop-up notification on your phone, and if you think it's something you want to watch, ta-da, it's right there for you. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. That does help folks as well with, again, I don't know. I'm not a computer scientist, but apparently the thumbs up helps other people find these shows on YouTube. So it does makes a nice difference for us. Doesn't take a lot of work on your end, and it helps us a little bit. So we do truly appreciate that. And we should have a fun, full day of coverage for you on Tuesday. Hopefully it stops raining. That would be lovely. If we did get to enjoy a little sunny Southern California, I hear it's nice. And we'll probably have a couple Scoop Eats episodes this week as we explore the Southern California cuisine scene and so much more. So that's all at BuckeyeScoop.com, YouTube.com/BuckeyeScoop. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can find all those other podcasts there as well. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.